Good Saturday morning, everybody. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our off-season The Hurricane Hub discussion for Saturday, March 25th, 2023. Let's get right on with it. Days till June 1st. We are now under 70 days, 68 days till the start of the hurricane season, almost the 60-day, 3-month window, and we're also basically almost a week away now from April, and April, as we all know, is the end of the spring predictability barrier. So once we get to April, we should start having a lot more certainty as to what the season lies ahead. And I'm just going to keep repeating, these next few weeks are going to start getting interesting for sure, getting closer to 3 months away till the season, and that certainly means where talks for the season are going to start picking up tremendously. Let's take a look at what's going on right now with the NOAA SST anomalies from the NOAA Coral Reef Watch. Always a day behind, but it does update every day. This is the map as of yesterday. And what do we see? Atlantic still very warm, and of course the Pacific continues to warm, though. We do talk about the Atlantic being warm and how it is incredible, but just look at this region right here, and that's really been warming up over the last few weeks. Really getting warm there. Anomaly starting to reach at the upper end of the scale, so really significant westerly winds have been, of course, the cause of this. A significant reduce of the trades, especially compared to what we've had with La Nina over the last few months and years. I really wouldn't say that none of this should come as a complete surprise that we're seeing all this begin to warm up dramatically. But if we take a look closer towards the Nino 3.4 region, which is usually where we track it a little bit closer towards the Central Pacific, and if you're not sure what I'm talking about with this, basically we're all talking about El Nino and La Nina and the whole entire ENSO. And usually when it comes to tracking this type of stuff, we tend to break the Pacific into regions as to what region they are specifically to track when it comes to ENSO. And the Nino 3.4 region is the region that we usually look at the most, and it's somewhere right in here. That's where we really track the SST anomalies the most and its effect it has on ENSO, El Nino, La Nina. That's what ENSO means or not. So if you're new to the hurricane world, that's a little bit of a tidbit. And that does remind me, for next week, I'll bring up the Nino graphic map to show how the Nino region is broken down, to kind of give a little more insight on that. Ooh, zoomed in on that. Don't want to do that. But you get what I mean. The Nino 3.4 region right in here, and that too has also been warming up in the last 2 weeks as a whole, though it's kind of been remaining stagnant. And I'll show you that right now, at least in the shorter term. The latest value is at negative 2 degrees Celsius below normal, so we're still in that cool neutral range, at least for the CDAS, although we are definitely out of La Nina. The last time we really been in a reading that was solidly in the La Nina threshold, which, if you don't know what I mean by that, that is usually zero point 0.5 degrees Celsius below normal in terms of the sea surface temperature anomalies across the Nino 3.4 region in the Pacific. We've not had those readings occur since late February, and now we're in late March, and it's been a month since we've had readings in neutral conditions. So I'm pretty sure it is safe to say that we are in neutral conditions. And the NOAA, this is the CPC NOAA latest Nino region departures from their weekly updates that they usually do. They do these weekly PDF updates that they give everything on ENSO, and they give their weekly SST departure readings. And right now, NOAA also agreeing that we are not in La Nina, and we're far from it now. They actually have positive zero point 0.1 degrees Celsius as their latest Nino 3.4 reading. So we're definitely out of La Nina. And another way to look at this is the SOI dashboard. Look at the last 30 days in terms of the SOI average is at 0. We've been at 0 in terms of the SOI for basically the last few weeks. Strong trades is obviously the reason as to why we've had this, a decrease in the SOI. So atmosphere has been shifting away from La Nina, and the 90-day average from the SOI2 has also been shifting. Take a look at this, and if you want to take a look at a graph to kind of represent that as well, look at the SOI just going straight down over the last few weeks. Really does put into perspective the atmosphere shifting away from La Nina and moving towards this neutral and potentially El Nino pattern that everybody's been talking about. And let's take a look at the daily contribution. And you can see why the 90-day average and also the 30-day average as well has been tanking. Look at all these values, especially as of recently, since early March, we've been seeing consistent values of negative to the daily contribution to the SOI. So it makes sense we've been seeing this pattern shift in terms of the atmosphere, in the general scheme of the atmosphere in terms of shifting to El Nino. We've been seeing that occur, at least away from La Nina. Really been seeing that over the last 2 weeks, and it really does show that we are in development away from La Nina, and we are starting to shift the atmosphere. So for those that were looking for that, it is occurring this year. But as I did mention before, we did talk about how the development of the Nino 3.4, at least recently, has kind of stopped. And I just want to show you this. This is the GFS forecast for the 850 millibar zonal winds. I could bring up the European, more longer range forecast, and they actually have a forecast that goes up to 2 weeks on this. But I'll pull that up, I guess, for next week when we do have it. But notice how they do show that these blue anomalies here, and that is indicative of stronger than normal zonal wind anomalies, which would be easterly winds moving out of the east. And when we talk about the perspective of how zonal winds work with sea surface temperature anomalies, the general tidbit is when you see these orange and these reds, which is why if you wonder how the Eastern Pacific has gotten so warm, especially over the last few weeks, this is why. Look at that. Significantly strong zonal wind anomalies, very strong westerly winds moving out of the west. That's what we talk about. Weaker zonal wind anomalies, more orange and reds. That's why we've seen a lot of warming. And when we see the opposite, when we see the contrary, we're talking about winds moving out of the east, mixing up the sea surface temperature anomalies on the surface. They're mixing and cooling them because of the direction the wind is moving at. And notice how over the next few days, at least for the next week or so, the GFS is forecasting that we're going to have that case occur over the date line over the Pacific over the next few weeks. Notice these blues here representing stronger trades. So at least when it comes to the development of this, when it comes to the Nino 3.4 region, want to keep a close eye on this because we are in March. We're getting closer towards April, and especially when it comes to the idea of El Nino being a factor for the season, it really all needs to come together now. Exactly, because we are in April, and any sort of development that deviates away from that, it's going to be interesting to see, especially when it comes to El Nino developing enough in time to impact the season. El Nino, this will have to be really something we watch, because these stronger trades is not favorable. It's not what we usually look for when it comes to mixing up and warming up the sea surface temperature anomalies, especially in the Pacific, so we get towards the El Nino. That's not what this is representing. So this will have to watch in the next few weeks, and of course we'll see if that does change the picture, at least for what everybody's talking about. But still a little early on. But of course, as I always say, these next few weeks are really going to get interesting when it comes to talking about stuff like El Nino and La Nina, for instances like that. So we'll just have to see. Moving on, those to the Storm Prediction Center. And what did I tell you last night when I did my forecast discussion, kind of a brief discussion? Because if you remember, last night we did have a very significant severe weather event for the South Central United States, and we'll go over that in a little bit, but it was significant. There was some pretty bad tornadoes that occurred last night, and I'll go through Twitter in a little bit to show you just some of the damage pictures, and believe me, they're incredible. But we're not done with severe weather. Hold on, let's go to day one, though. First of all, marginal risk for portions of Pennsylvania, Ohio, and even western New York, so could get some stronger storms today. Maybe a little bit of severe weather. Marginal risk also in effect for the far southeast, Florida Panhandle, southeast Mississippi, southern Alabama, most of Georgia, and South Carolina. So be on the lookout for some stronger storms today. The tornado risk is there, as well as the wind and the hail risk as well. But of course, I'm not looking at anything too significant, not like yesterday, but day two, that's what the Storm Prediction Center is looking at. That is tomorrow. The risk does increase once again for severe weather, so keep an eye on that. Slight risk. Tornado risk is there, definitely. Wind and hail as well, all looking, pretty significant. So we'll have to see if something comes out of that. Then day 3 things should calm down, and let's take a look at, of course, what is going on over the next few weeks. Day 6 again, looks like something could be interesting developing over Texas and Oklahoma. It is March after all, so, and by the time we're in day 6, I would assume, will we still in March? Think so. Probably like March 30th or 31st, but you get what I mean. We're in March. We're getting closer towards April as well. And that is the peak of severe weather season, if you do know, in the United States. That's the peak when we do see these events anyway. So it really doesn't matter if it's March or April. We're in severe weather season. So this really does not matter that we're seeing this. It really is no surprise anyway. So what can I say other than keep a watchful eye when we do get development, and of course watch out, because especially after yesterday, going to what we did have, there was this really bad tornado out of Rolling Fork, Mississippi, and I'm just going to show you some of the feed that I'm getting out, kind of updated, but look at that from Ezer. Just credit people so I don't get copyrighted, but this is what Ezer posted on Twitter. Look at that, just incredible tornado footage. And we go down, this is from Aaron Rigsby. Here's a quick clip of the violent tornado just before slamming into Rolling Fork that goes to a YouTube link. Not going to click on that, don't want to get copyrighted, but you can see that incredible picture. Quite a significant tornado indeed, and then some updated kind of does show though that how significant it was. At least 20 people, roughly around 23 were killed in a tornado last night in Rolling Fork, Mississippi. That's all the damage from this. And just look at this. This goes on and on. Significant tornado occurred last night, and I mean the warning signs were there. There was outlook released by the SPC. They said moderate risk. They said a significant hatch chance for significant tornadoes, and look what we got. We got a significant tornado indeed. My heart does go out to everybody that's dealing with this, but I mean, what can I say? The warning was there, and it's just a matter of heeding it. But at least for today, it does look like the tornado risk has calmed down. Severe weather watch, though, in effect for portions of Georgia and the Florida Panhandle. So, of course, the risk is not over. And as we take a look at the northern part of the United States, it definitely still looking a little bit like winter. We do have some winter storm warnings in effect for portions of, Wyoming and Montana, I believe, and then also portions of Michigan and Wisconsin as well, and even portions of northern Illinois could get some snow as well. And then there's winter storm watches in effect still for the interior mountains of California. So as we did talk about, March kind of being the battle of the seasons in a way, because we're kind of transitioning away from winter and we're going into spring, and we're also kind of shifting the atmosphere in the northern hemisphere because we're shifting away from winter and we're going into a more summer-like pattern slowly. Especially over the next few weeks, we're kind of starting to see that shift now, and still seeing that battle of the winter, as we always see between winter and spring, especially this time of year in March. So kind of representative that, severe weather down south and winter weather down north, kind of what you see in the springtime. But still, if you even remember when I talked about the Gulf being warm for moisture, this is kind of what we saw get tapped into. The Gulf having very warm sea surface temperature anomalies, and that moved up and helped fuel a significant severe weather event. And as I said, it is only March still. The peak of the severe weather season is April and May, and I'd imagine over the next few weeks we'll see some more tornado outbreaks occur, especially when it comes to the south, that south central portion, Dixie Alley, Mississippi, Arkansas, especially April. That's when they really do get these, big events that occur that produce some quite devastating tornadoes. And I'm telling you, with the Gulf, it's not only hurricane season that doesn't get affected by warm anomalies closer to the U.S. They're also, as I do say, oceans are a reflection of the atmosphere, and especially when we see a much warmer ocean that represents there's a lot of moisture and instability in the atmosphere in that area, and we see that in the Gulf, and we all know that severe weather is fueled by instability in the atmosphere. So this all just goes hand in hand, and not only is it interesting for hurricane season, but as well for severe weather season. So keep an eye on that as we go towards the next 2 weeks, not only as we talk about hurricane season when it comes to El Nino and La Nina. So pretty sure these next few weeks will be very interesting for us to talk about. And of course, did see that, some of you did watch the video from yesterday, and yesterday did turn out to be an interesting night as well. So we'll post more on severe weather season as well, especially as we see that pick up over the next few weeks. But other than that, do thank you for watching for today. Of course, watching how, El Nino and La Nina develop, because it is getting closer towards the season, as I say, March 25th, almost April, and after that, the off season just flies by, and before you know it, we're in a hurricane season. So we're almost there, whether you like it or not. But other than that, that is it for today. That is it for this week. Have a great, safe weekend. If you like what you saw today, as I always say, please like and subscribe. Really helps us grow the channel. Share with family and friends as well. Sharing and reaching and telling everybody the news about what's going on as well does help bring a sense of community, and also does help spread the word, which is especially most important when it comes to weather. Education on weather is the most important, especially when it comes to being prepared for weather events. And I think that's what we really, especially now in the world that we're living in right now, that's what we really do need, and that's what we also do have the tools for. It's not like before we don't have tools for that. We have the tools now, and it's just a matter of using them, and that's what I think is most important when it comes to tracking the weather. All right, so with that being said, I'm done. Have a great, safe weekend, and we'll see you back next Saturday. Of course, early though, if needed. See ya.